There are nights that change everything. Nights when a single sentence breaks years of silence and contained dignity. That December night, in front of everyone, my son asked me with a cruel smile, "So, how does it feel to be completely useless, Mom?" I returned his smile and answered with something he never imagined hearing. "It feels like never having to pay your rent ever again." His face went pale. My daughter-in-law, Vanessa, choked on her wine and screamed, "What rent? What rent are you talking about?" "My name is Eleanor. I am 59 years old. I am a retired schoolteacher, a widow for 12 years, and the mother of an only child whom I loved more than my own life. For 6 years, I silently paid the rent for the apartment where my son lived with his wife. 6 years of keeping a secret that he asked, begged, and pleaded for me to keep. And that night, in front of Vanessa's family, in front of her parents who had flown in from a wealthy suburb in Connecticut, in front of her elegant sisters and their glasses of expensive wine, that secret escaped my mouth like a sigh of freedom. But to understand that night, I must go back 6 years. It all started when Ryan told me he had met someone special. Vanessa, that was her name. She came from a wealthy family, the kind that walks with the security provided by inherited money and last names that open doors. I lived in a modest house in the San Fernando Valley, in Los Angeles, the same one where I raised Ryan alone after his father died of a massive heart attack when my son was barely 8. Ryan worked as an engineer at a mid-sized firm. He earned a good salary, but not as much as he led Vanessa to believe. I knew it from the beginning. A mother always knows when her son is constructing a lie. The first time Vanessa came to dinner at my house, I noticed how she looked at my antique furniture, the curtains embroidered with flowers, and the china I inherited from my grandmother. She didn't say anything, but her eyes said it all. Ryan, my son, didn't defend her, nor did he defend me. He just smiled nervously and changed the subject. I should have seen it then. That first crack. But a mother always wants to believe her son is better than he shows. 1 month before the wedding, Ryan arrived at my house on a Sunday afternoon. He had that look I had known since he was a child, the look of someone about to ask for something big. He sat with me on the patio where we always drank coffee, under the purple bougainvillea I planted the day he was born. "Mom," he said without looking me in the eye, "I need to ask you something." "Tell me, son." "Vanessa and I are going to rent an apartment in Santa Monica. It's beautiful. It has 2 bedrooms and a balcony. She's used to a certain standard, you know. And I make good money, but not as much as her family thinks." My heart already knew what was coming. "How much is the rent?" I asked. $3,500 a month. I almost choked on my coffee. "Ryan, that is more than I receive from my pension." "I know, Mom. I know. But listen to me." He leaned in and took my hands. "I can pay $2,300. I just need you to help me with $1,200 every month, just until I get a better job. I promise it's temporary. And why don't you look for something more affordable?" Because Vanessa already told her parents we're going to live there. She already showed them photos. If we move to something cheaper, they'll know I don't earn what I told them. "Please, Mom, just 1 year, I swear to you." That afternoon, under the bougainvillea, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I said yes. But there was a condition Ryan imposed on me. "Vanessa cannot know you are helping me. Please. She would think I'm a failure. She has to believe I pay for everything myself." And so, my silence began. On the 1st of every month, I transferred $1,200 to Ryan's account money that came from my teacher's pension, from my savings, from the money I had set aside to fix up my house, for my medication, to live my final years with dignity. Just 1 year, he had told me. Just 1 year. But 1 year turned into 2, 2 into 3. And when we reached 6 years, I had no savings left. I had nothing left to give. Sometimes we trust the wrong people too much. You, too, have been disappointed by someone you loved. Before everything broke, there were beautiful years, years in which being a mother was my greatest pride. I remember when Ryan was 7 and would wake me up on Sundays with a glass of orange juice he had squeezed himself. He would spill half of it on the way, but he would arrive at my bed with that crooked tooth smile and say, "For you, Mom, because you're the best in the world." I remember the afternoons of homework at the kitchen table, his head bowed over his notebooks, the smell of stew on the stove, the golden light of sunset entering through the window. He asked me about the universe, the planets, why people die, and I answered him with the wisdom I had and with the infinite love that only a single mother can give. When his father died, Ryan was 8. That night, after the funeral, he didn't cry. He sat with me on the patio under the bougainvillea that was barely starting to grow and said, "Don't worry, Mom. I'm going to take care of you now." And for many years, that was true. Ryan was my companion, my reason to get up every morning, the project of my entire life. I worked double shifts as a teacher so he could go to a private school. I mended his clothes when necessary. I packed his lunches with love. I drove him across the city to his extracurricular classes, fighting through traffic. I never complained. I never felt it was a sacrifice. It was pure love. When he got into university, I cried with pride. When he graduated with his engineering degree, I invited all my teacher friends to the ceremony. Ryan walked across the stage, received his diploma, and from there he looked for me in the crowd. He smiled. I did too. And in that moment, I felt that everything had been worth it. "Thank you, Mom," he told me that night while we ate pot roast in my kitchen. "Without you, I would be nothing." I kept those words in my heart like a treasure. The first years after his graduation were good. Ryan got better and better jobs. He visited me on Sundays. We drank coffee together under the bougainvillea, which had grown so much it now shaded the entire patio. He talked to me about his projects, his bosses, his dreams, and I listened with that attention only a mother knows how to give. He never asked for money. He never lacked anything. He was an independent, hard-working, and honorable man, or so I thought. When he met Vanessa, at first I was happy. It was time for him to settle down. Ryan was 32. I was already dreaming of grandchildren, of a daughter-in-law who would sit with me at family gatherings, of Sundays full of children's laughter. But from the first dinner, something wasn't right. Vanessa arrived dressed in designer clothes, smelling of expensive French perfume, with perfect nails and salon hair. She was pretty, I don't deny it, but there was something in her gaze that made me uncomfortable. A hardness, a way of evaluating everything, as if she were putting a price tag on my house, my furniture, my life. "Your house is very cute, Mrs. Eleanor," she told me, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Very authentic." Authentic. That word landed on me like a stone. Ryan didn't notice the poison, or he didn't want to notice. During dinner, he only talked about Vanessa, about her job in public relations, her successful family, her refined taste. I nodded, smiled, poured more iced tea, but inside, something hurt. That night, when Vanessa left, Ryan stayed a while with me. We washed the dishes together like always. "What did you think of her?" he asked enthusiastically. "She is very pretty," I replied, choosing my words carefully, "and son, if you are happy, I am happy." He hugged me, and I closed my eyes, wishing it were true. In the following weeks, Ryan began to change. Small changes that only a mother notices. He stopped arriving in simple shirts and started wearing designer brands. He changed his phone for the most expensive model. He told me he had started going to restaurants in Beverly Hills, to bars in West Hollywood, places where Vanessa's crowd gathered. "Isn't all that very expensive?" I asked him one afternoon. "I'm fine, Mom. I earn enough." But I knew his numbers, I knew his salary, and I knew it wasn't enough for that lifestyle. A month later, he announced they were getting married, and a month after that came that Sunday afternoon, the afternoon he asked for help with the rent, the afternoon when, under the bougainvillea, I agreed to keep his secret. "Just 1 year," he had told me. Just 1 year. While I tell all this, I wonder where you might be listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. The first year of payments was difficult, but I bore it with dignity. On the first of every month, I transferred $1,200 to Ryan's account. I adjusted my budget. I stopped buying meat frequently. I started mending my clothes instead of buying new ones. I canceled my membership at the senior center gym that I liked so much. But everything was fine, I told myself. It was for my son. It was temporary. Ryan called me every week. "How are you, Mom?" "Good, son. Very good." We never mentioned the money. He had made it very clear that this was our secret, our pact of silence. His visits became spaced out. He no longer came on Sundays. Vanessa always had plans, brunch with her friends, dinners with clients, family commitments. I understood. A couple needs their space. Or at least that's what I told myself. The first real crack appeared on Mother's Day of that first year. I had prepared my famous turkey chili the day before. The chili Ryan had loved since he was a boy. The one that took me hours to make, seasoning every ingredient with patience. I set the table with my best tablecloth, the one my own mother had embroidered. I bought fresh flowers at the market. I waited. Ryan had confirmed by text message. "We'll be there, Mom." At 2 p.m., the table was ready. At 3 p.m., the chili began to get cold. At 4 p.m., I started to worry. At 5 p.m., the phone rang. "Mom, I'm so sorry. Vanessa organized a lunch with her family and didn't tell me." He hung up before I could respond. I sat alone at the table, in front of the chili no one would eat, under the bougainvillea, now full of purple flowers. And for the first time in a long time, I cried. I didn't cry for the food. I cried because I understood something I didn't want to accept. I had ceased to be a priority in my son's life. I put the chili in the refrigerator. I ate it alone all week. Every bite tasted of sadness. Ryan came the following week with flowers and chocolates. "Forgive me, Mom. You know how Vanessa is with her family." He hugged me, and I, as always, forgave him. But something had changed inside me. A small crack. Months passed, and the year he had promised me was up. One afternoon I gathered the courage and called him. "Ryan, son, a year has passed." "A year of what, Mom?" "Of the rent. You told me it would be just 1 year." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Mom, are you okay? You know things are tough right now. I just paid for Vanessa's advanced certification course. Give me a few more months. I promise you that soon I won't need your help. Ryan, I have expenses too. My house needs repairs. The water heater is leaking. Mom, please, don't make me feel bad. I already have enough pressure on me." And he hung up. I stood looking at the phone, feeling that something very big had just broken. But I kept paying because he was my son. Because a mother doesn't abandon her child. Because I still believed things were going to get better. The second year passed, just like the first. Fewer visits, more excuses, more silence. By the third year, Ryan almost never came to my house. When I suggested visiting them, there was always a reason. They were remodeling, Vanessa had a headache, they had dinner with friends. Once, I dared to arrive without warning. I knocked on the door of their apartment in Santa Monica, that apartment I helped pay for. Vanessa opened it wearing a silk robe and holding a glass of wine in her hand. "Oh, Eleanor, what a surprise." Her tone didn't sound surprised, it sounded annoyed. "I was just passing by and wanted to say hello," I said. "Ryan isn't here. He went out with his friends. I can wait for him if it's not a bother." "Well, actually, some of my girlfriends are coming over. Maybe another day?" "That's fine." And she closed the door. I stood in the hallway of that elegant building with the bag of pastries I had brought them, feeling like I had just been expelled from my own son's life. I walked to the bus stop crying on the inside and with my head held high on the outside. That night, Ryan sent me a text. "Mom, Vanessa told me you stopped by. Let me know beforehand, please." She felt uncomfortable. And me? No one asked how I felt. I didn't reply to the message. The next day I made the transfer for the month, $1,200 as always, because despite everything, despite the pain, despite the humiliation, he was still my son, and I was still his mother, even though he was already forgetting what that meant. There is a difference between being generous and being foolish. For a long time, I believed I was being generous, but the truth is I was being foolish, and the worst part is I knew it, but I didn't want to accept it. The fourth year of payments was when I began to feel the real weight of my decision, not just in my bank account, but in my body. My knees started to hurt more. The doctor recommended a physical therapy treatment that my insurance didn't fully cover. I had to pay $200 a month for the sessions. I didn't have that extra $200. I canceled the physical therapy. I can live with the pain, I told myself. And I lived with it every morning when I got up, every step I climbed, every time I bent down in the garden. My knees reminded me that I was sacrificing my health to sustain a lie that wasn't even mine. But I didn't say anything to Ryan. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want him to think his mother was weak, complaining, or problematic. He already had enough with Vanessa and her demands, or so I told myself to justify my silence. My friends started noticing the changes. My friend Linda, a retired teacher like me, invited me on a trip to Hawaii with a group of former teachers. It was affordable, just $1,200 for 4 days, all inclusive. We had been talking about that trip for years. I can't, Linda, I told her without looking her in the eye. Why? Don't you have your pension? You don't have big expenses. It's just that. I'm saving for some repairs on the house. Eleanor, your house always needs repairs and you never do them. You've been saying the same thing for years. What is happening? I shrugged. You know how it is. The money doesn't stretch. Linda looked at me with those eyes that see more than one wants to show. Eleanor, I've known you for 30 years. Something is happening, and you aren't telling me. I changed the subject. But that night, alone in my house, I sat under the bougainvillea with a cup of coffee and allowed myself to think about the truth. I was living like a pauper so my son could live like a rich man, and he didn't even thank me for it. Ryan's visits had been reduced to once every 2 months, at most, always in a rush, always with his phone in hand, always with Vanessa calling him for some emergency. That afternoon it wasn't an emergency. One day he came alone. It was rare for him to arrive without her. He sat with me on the patio, and I noticed worry on his face. Is everything okay, son? I asked. Yeah, Mom. Everything's good. It's just that, well, Vanessa and I are thinking of buying a new car. I felt my heart sink. I knew what was coming. The one we have is old. Vanessa wants an SUV, something safer. We're looking at an Acura MDX, an Acura that cost over $60,000. Sounds expensive, I said, choosing my words carefully. It is, but we can afford it. I'm making good money. I felt something bitter in my throat. Making good money. Yes, Mom. They just raised my salary. It won't be necessary for you to help me with the rent anymore. Starting next month, I'll take care of everything. For a moment, my heart filled with hope. 6 years. 6 years had passed. It was finally going to end. Really, son? He lowered his gaze. Well, actually, I wanted to ask you one more favor. I know it's a lot, but I need you to help me with the down payment on the SUV. It's $10,000. I can scrape together $6,000, but I'm short $4,000. Do you think you could lend it to me? I promise I'll pay you back in 6 months, and after that, I won't need anything else. The world stopped. $4,000. I didn't have $4,000. I had spent all my savings on the monthly payments. What little I had left barely covered 3 months of an emergency fund. Ryan, I don't have that amount. Mom, please, it's important. Vanessa already told her family we're buying the SUV. If I say I can't now, they're going to think I'm a failure. There was the image again, the lie, the need to keep up appearances before Vanessa's family. Son, I truly do not have that money. You have your savings account, the one Dad left you. I froze. That account was sacred. It was the last thing I had left from my husband. It was $20,000 he had left for my old age, for a true emergency, for my dignity. That account is not to be touched, Ryan. Your father left it for Mom. I'm his son. Don't you think he would want you to use that money to help me? Besides, I told you I'm going to pay it back. It's not forever. His voice sounded annoyed now, as if I were the bad guy, as if my refusal were an act of selfishness. Give me a few days to think about it, I said, feeling like I was running out of air. Ryan stood up, clearly frustrated. Fine, but don't take too long. The offer on the SUV expires in 2 weeks. He left without finishing his coffee, without hugging me, without the affectionate words that used to never be missing. That night I didn't sleep. I tossed and turned in bed thinking about everything about the 6 years of payments, the broken promises, the canceled physical therapy, the trip I never took, my house falling to pieces while I paid for someone else's apartment. I thought about my husband, about what he would say if he knew what was happening. Would he have asked me to protect our son at any cost, or would he have asked me to protect myself? On the 3rd day, Ryan called again. Have you thought about it, Mom? Ryan, I truly cannot. That account is for my old age. I am 59 years old. I need that money for when I can no longer work. For medicine. Oh, Mom, always so dramatic. You're not going to die tomorrow. Besides, when you're old. As if 59 weren't enough, as if the pain in my knees were imaginary, as if my exhaustion didn't exist. It's not drama, son. It is reality. You know what, Mom, forget it. Don't worry, I'll figure it out myself. I always end up doing everything myself. And he hung up. I stood with the phone in my hand, trembling, not from cold, but from rage. Rage against him for manipulating me, rage against myself for allowing it. But the worst came later. 2 weeks later, Vanessa posted a photo on her social media. There she was, smiling, posing in front of a new, white, gleaming Acura MDX. The caption read, "Blessed by this gift from my hard-working husband. Thank you, love, for always keeping your promises." Number blessed life, number ideal couple, number Acura MDX. They had bought the SUV without my help, without my $4,000, without touching my husband's sacred account. And that only meant one thing. Ryan never needed that money. He only wanted to see how far I was willing to go. He wanted to measure my love, test my loyalty, squeeze the last drop of my sacrifice. And when I said no, he simply found another way. That night, under the bougainvillea, I made a decision. I wasn't going to withdraw the $4,000. I wasn't going to touch my husband's account. But I also wasn't going to stop paying the monthly rent. Why? Because I was still afraid. Afraid of losing him completely. Afraid he would stop talking to me. Afraid of being a mother who abandons her son. So I continued month after month, transfer after transfer, but something inside me had died. And although I didn't know it then, that silent death was the beginning of my resurrection. While I tell all this, I wonder, where might you be listening from? Write the name of your city in the comments. The 5th year was the year of signs. Those signs you see, but prefer not to interpret. Those truths that are right in front of your eyes, but your heart refuses to accept, because accepting them would mean admitting that everything you believed was a lie. I kept paying the rent every month, $1,200, punctually on the first day of every month. By then, I had completely emptied my personal savings account. I no longer had any financial cushion. I lived day to day, stretching every dollar, buying the cheapest items, denying myself everything. My knees got so bad that I had to start using a cane to walk long distances. Linda insisted I go to the doctor. "Eleanor, you have to get this checked. It's not normal." "I'm fine. It's age. You are 59, not 90. Please, go to the doctor." I went. The diagnosis was advanced degenerative arthritis. The doctor prescribed a treatment that cost $300 a month out of pocket. I looked at the prescription and put it in my purse without saying anything. "Are you going to fill the prescription?" asked the doctor. "Yes, doctor, thank you." A lie. I wasn't going to fill it. I didn't have that extra $300. It was the difference between eating well or eating poorly, between paying the electric bill or sitting in the dark. I left the clinic limping, leaning on my cane, with the unfilled prescription, feeling that my body was paying the price for my sacrifice. That afternoon, Ryan called me. It was strange. I hadn't heard from him in weeks. "Mom, how are you?" "Good, son. And you?" "Great." "Hey, did you get my text?" "What text?" "I sent you a text 3 days ago asking you to deposit the money a little earlier this month, on the 30th instead of the 1st. Didn't you see it?" I hadn't seen it. I checked the phone. There it was. A short message. "Ma, deposit on the 30th, please. Have to pay something urgent." "I didn't see it, son. Sorry. Can you do it today?" "It's urgent, Ryan. Today is the 30th. The banks are already closed. Can you do it tomorrow morning?" "Mom, I need that money today. Can't you do an online transfer?" His tone was impatient, annoyed, as if I were an incompetent employee and not his mother. "Son, I don't know how to do those things on the internet. I always go to the bank." I heard a sigh of frustration. "Fine, forget it. I'll have to borrow from a friend. But tomorrow, without fail." He hung up without saying goodbye. I stared at the phone, feeling something new. Not pain, but a small spark of anger. This is how he spoke to me now. This is how he treated me after 6 years of silent help. The next day I went to the bank early. While I waited for my turn, I listened to the conversation of 2 ladies. "My son asked me for money for his business and never paid me back," one said. "Oh, friend, children take advantage. My daughter asked me for money for her wedding and now she barely speaks to me," answered the other. I froze. Is that how they saw us? Like mothers whose own children drain them of money? No, my case was different. I was helping Ryan because he needed it. It was temporary. He had promised me. I made the transfer? $1,200, as always. But this time, something inside me began to wake up. A little voice saying, "This isn't right." I ignored it. 2 weeks later, my friend Linda invited me to lunch. We went to a small diner near my house. She ordered a turkey club sandwich, and I ordered a cup of chicken noodle soup, which was cheaper. "Why do you always order the cheapest thing?" Linda asked me. "I don't crave the sandwich." "Eleanor, please, not with me. I know you. What is happening with your money?" And there, in that simple diner, with the noise of dishes and conversations around us, something inside me broke. Tears began to fall without permission. "Eleanor, I can't do this anymore." She took my hand. "Tell me." And I told her. Not everything, but a part. I told her I was helping Ryan with some expenses, that it was temporary, that it would end soon. "How long have you been helping him?" 5 years. 5 years. "And when is he going to stop needing your help?" "Soon," he promised me. Linda looked at me with a mixture of tenderness and sadness I will never forget. "Eleanor, dear, that isn't helping, that is supporting him. And the worst part is you are destroying your life to sustain his. He knows you are skipping your medication to give him money?" "I haven't told him. I don't want to worry him." "Worry him?" "Eleanor, you are the one walking with a cane. You are the one sacrificing yourself, and you're worried about worrying him?" Her words fell on me like buckets of cold water, but I still defended my son. "You don't understand, Linda. Vanessa comes from a family with money. Ryan has to maintain a certain level. If not, she is going to look down on him. And what if she already looks down on him? What if she already knows he can't maintain that level and that's why he's draining you?" "Don't say that. Eleanor, open your eyes. A son who loves his mother doesn't leave her without medicine, doesn't make her live like a pauper while he lives like a rich man. He doesn't know I'm like this. And why don't you tell him?" I had no answer. That night I couldn't sleep. Linda's words spun in my head. I decided to do something I had never done. Investigate. The next day I searched on the internet for the building where Ryan lived. It was a residential complex in Santa Monica, elegant, modern, with a gym and a rooftop garden. I searched for how much the apartments cost. The rents there ranged from $2,800 to $4,500, depending on the size. My heart started beating faster. Ryan had told me the rent was $3,500, that he paid $2,300, and I paid $1,200. What if that was a lie? What if the rent was $2,800 and he was asking me for $1,200 to keep the rest? Or worse, what if it was cheaper and he used my money for other things? No, it couldn't be. My son wouldn't lie to me like that. Or would he? I decided to do something else, something that made me ashamed, but I had to do. I sent a message to Ryan. "Son, what a coincidence. A friend of mine is looking for an apartment in Santa Monica. Do you know roughly how much the rents run in your building? Just to give her a reference." The answer arrived 3 hours later. 2,000, 800, or 3,000. 500, varies a lot depending on the floor and the view. 2,000, 800, or 3,000. 500. Vague, imprecise, evasive. "And how much do you guys pay exactly?" I insisted. 2 days passed without an answer. Finally, "Mom, I don't remember well. Vanessa handles those things." "Why?" "Just curiosity." There were no more messages. That night, sitting under the bougainvillea, which was already losing flowers for autumn, I understood something terrible. My son was lying to me. I didn't know exactly about what, but I knew there were lies, layers and layers of lies that I had decided not to see. A week later, something happened that confirmed my suspicions. I was walking downtown near a fancy shopping district. Then I saw Ryan. He was on the terrace of an expensive restaurant, one of those places where a breakfast costs what I spent on food for a whole week. He was with Vanessa and another couple. They were laughing, drinking mimosas. The table was full of food. I stood paralyzed on the street, looking up, hidden among the people. Ryan looked happy, relaxed, prosperous, and I was down there with my cane, with my old clothes, with my knees wrecked with pain, with my bank account empty. He didn't see me. I didn't look away from that terrace until they asked for the check. I saw Ryan take out a gold credit card and pay without blinking. Then they got up, all elegant, and walked toward the avenue, laughing and hugging. I returned to my house on the bus, gripping my cane, feeling that something very big was about to explode inside me. That night I reviewed my bank statements from the last 5 years. I took out an old calculator and started adding $1,200 a month, 12 months a year, 5 full years. 7,200,000 I had given $72,000 to my son, money that came from my pension, from my savings, from my future, from my health, from my dignity, and he was in expensive restaurants drinking mimosas. I rested my head on the table and cried. I cried for everything I had lost, for everything I denied myself, for the fool I was, for the blind mother I had been. But amidst those tears appeared something else, something I had never felt toward my son. Rage. I still ask myself if I did the right thing. And what would you have done in my place? Rage is a strange sensation when you have never felt it toward the person you love most. It is like having fire in your chest and not being able to breathe. It is knowing the truth and not wanting to accept it. It is waking up at dawn with your heart racing, remembering every lie, every broken promise, every moment you chose to believe instead of seeing. After calculating that $72,000, I couldn't sleep for 3 days. I spent the time tossing in bed, thinking about everything I could have done with that money. I could have had surgery on my knees. I could have traveled to all the places I dreamed of. I could have remodeled my house. I could have lived with dignity. Instead, I paid for my son's lie, because now I knew with certainty it was a lie. Not a small lie, a huge lie sustained for 5 years that had cost me my health, my peace of mind, my future. But I still didn't know the whole truth, and something inside me needed to know it completely before acting. One morning I made a decision. I was going to investigate for real how much the rent for that apartment cost. I wasn't going to ask Ryan. I was going to find out myself. I put on my best clothes, put on a little makeup, and took a taxi to the building. Yes, a taxi was an expense I normally didn't allow myself, but this was important. I needed answers. I arrived at the building. It was more elegant than I imagined. There was a doorman at the entrance, a lobby with tropical plants and gleaming marble floors. I felt small, out of place, poor. "Good morning," I told the doorman with my best smile. "I am interested in renting an apartment here. Do you know if there are any available?" The doorman, a man of about 50, looked at me kindly. "I would have to speak with management, ma'am, but I think there are a couple available. Do you want me to give you the contact? Before that, I would like to know roughly how much the rents are to see if it is within my budget." "Of course. Look, the one-bedroom apartments are around $2,200, the two-bedroom ones like $2,600, and the three-bedroom ones or the ones with a terrace, those are more expensive, like $3,400 or $3,500. My heart stopped for a second. $2,600. The two-bedroom apartments cost $2,600. "And what does that price include?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Includes building maintenance, water, and trash." "Electricity is paid separately." "I see. And do most tenants rent 2 bedrooms?" "Yes, ma'am. It's the most common. The 3-bedroom ones or with a terrace are more for large families or people who want more space." I thanked him and left with my legs shaking. I had to sit on a street bench because I felt I was going to faint. $2,600. Not $3,500. $2,600. Ryan had told me the rent was $3,500, that he paid $2,300 and I paid $1,200. But if the real rent was $2,600, that meant he paid $1,400 and I paid $1,200. Or worse, that he used my money for other things and paid the whole rent with his salary. No, there had to be an explanation. Maybe they had one of the expensive apartments with a terrace. Maybe that's why it cost $3,500. But if so, why had Ryan been so evasive when I asked him? Why didn't he simply say, "Mom, we pay more because it has a terrace," because he was lying, because he had been lying to me this whole time. I returned to my house on the bus, feeling sick. When I arrived, I vomited, not from something I had eaten, but from the nausea of betrayal. That afternoon, I did something else, something that made me ashamed. But I had to. I looked up Vanessa's social media. She was one of those people who post everything, every meal, every outing, every moment of her perfect life. And there was everything. The evidence of my sacrifice converted into her luxury. Photos in expensive restaurants, date night with my love, photos of new clothes, retail therapy, designer stores, luxury boutiques, Rodeo Drive, Coach, photos of trips, Cabo, Aspen, Napa Valley. We needed this break. Blessed life. Photos of the Acura SUV. Thank you, love, for always keeping your promises to me. Every photo was a stab, every phrase a mockery. While I ate rice and beans to save, they ate lobster. While I canceled my physical therapy, they went on vacation. While I wore the same clothes from years ago, she bought designer bags and all with my money. With the money that I, a 59-year-old retired teacher with arthritis, had given them every month for 5 years. I kept scrolling. There was a photo from 2 years ago in a restaurant. The comments said things like, "What an ideal couple." You can tell, Ryan is a successful man. Successful. Yes, successful with his mother's money. But what hurt me most was a recent photo. It was Vanessa with her mother and her sisters. The caption read, "Thank God for blessing me with a family where I have never lacked anything. I grew up surrounded by love and abundance. And now my husband gives me the same life. Sacred family, blessed, family is everything. Abundance, love, family. And I? Where did I fit in that equation? I, who had given them $72,000. I, who had sacrificed my health. I, who was the reason they could live in that apartment. I didn't exist in her history. I was invisible. I closed the phone and cried until I ran out of tears. That night, Ryan called me as if nothing was happening, as if it were a normal call. "Mom, how are you?" "Fine," I lied. "Hey, just to remind you that tomorrow is the 1st, the deposit." "Okay." As if it were a transaction, as if I were a bank. Not a, "How are your knees, Mom?" Not a, "Do you need anything?" Just the reminder of the deposit. "Ryan," I said, and my voice sounded different, firmer. "I need to talk to you." "I can't right now, Mom. Vanessa and I are going out." "Can it be another day?" "It is important." "Mom, I'm really in a hurry. We'll talk next week." "Okay. Don't forget the deposit. Love you." And he hung up. I stood with the phone in my hand, shaking with rage. He didn't even ask how I was anymore, didn't even pretend interest. I was just a source of money, an ATM, a monthly obligation. The next day, I didn't go to the bank. It was the 1st of the month, and for the first time in 5 years, I didn't make the deposit. My phone rang at 2 p.m. It was Ryan. "Mom, did you make the deposit? It hasn't arrived." "I haven't gone to the bank." "Why not? It's the 1st. "Because first we have to talk." "Mom, don't start. What's wrong?" "I want you to come to my house today. I need to talk to you in person." "I can't today. Vanessa has a dinner." I interrupted him. My voice sounded like never before, hard, firm, unbreakable. "You come today, or no deposit. You decide." There was a long silence. I could feel his surprise through the phone. "Are you threatening me?" "I am telling you that I need to talk to you." "Is it a threat to want to see my son?" Another silence. "Fine. I'll come tonight around 8. I'll wait for you here." I hung up and started to shake, not from fear, but from something I had never felt. Power. For the first time in 5 years, I had control. The hours passed slowly. I got ready, took out all my bank statements, took out the notebook where I had noted every payment, took out the calculator, made coffee, although I knew that conversation was going to be bitter. At 8:30, Ryan arrived, late as always. He entered with an annoyed expression, as if coming to see his mother was a sacrifice. "I'm here. What is so urgent?" I didn't invite him to sit. I remained standing with the cane in one hand and the papers in the other. "How much does the rent for your apartment cost?" I asked bluntly. He turned pale. "What? How much does it cost?" "It is a simple question." "I already told you, $3,500. "That is a lie." "What do you mean a lie?" Now you are going to tell me how much I pay. I went to the building. I spoke with the doorman. The 2-bedroom apartments cost $2,600. The silence that followed was deafening. Ryan opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Mom, that is the base price. We pay more because our apartment has a terrace. And do you have a terrace? You never told me. You never invited me to see your apartment. In 5 years, I have never set foot in that place I am helping to pay for. Because, Vanessa, it's not that she what? Is she ashamed of me? Is she embarrassed that her poor mother-in-law visits her elegant apartment? It's not that. Then what is it? Explain it to me, Ryan. Explain to me why I have given you $1,200 a month for 5 years, $72,000 in total, and you treat me like a stranger. $72,000, he repeated, as if he were counting it. Of course I counted it. It is my money. It is my pension. It is my future. Do you know what I could have done with $72,000? Do you have any idea? Ryan ran his hand through his hair, nervous. Mom, I always thought you had plenty. You never told me you were struggling financially. Had plenty. Does it look like I have plenty? Look at my house. Look at how I live. Look at my cane. Do you know why I use a cane? Because I have arthritis and I can't pay for the treatment. Do you know why I can't pay for it? Because I give you $1,200 every month. I didn't know that. And why don't you ask? Why don't you care? The only thing you care about is that the money arrives punctually every first of the month. Ryan let himself fall into a chair. For the first time, I saw him speechless. You said it would be just 1 year, I continued, and my voice broke. 1 year, Ryan. That was 5 years ago, and here I am still paying for your lie because that is what I am paying. No, not rent, but your lie, your image, your need to keep up appearances before Vanessa and her family. Mom, I do plan to pay you back. When? When, Ryan? When you buy another SUV? When you go on vacation again? When Vanessa buys another designer bag? I saw her social media. I saw everything. I saw how you live expensive restaurants, designer clothes, trips, and me here eating rice and beans, using old clothes, unable to pay for my medicine. Tears began to fall, but this time they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage, of liberation, of a truth that was finally coming to light. Mom, you know what hurts me the most? It isn't the money. It's that you made me invisible. You turned me into an ATM. You stopped seeing me as your mother. I am no longer Eleanor, the woman who raised you alone, who worked double shifts to pay for your university, who loved you more than her own life. Now I am just a monthly obligation. Ryan covered his face with his hands. I don't know if he was crying or just trying to escape my gaze. I'm sorry, he said finally, his voice broken. I'm sorry, Mom. You're right. I took advantage of you. I let this get out of control. But I really thought I would pay you everything back. Really? With what money, Ryan? If you live above your means. If every dollar you earn goes to sustain an image that isn't real, I'm going to change. I promise you. How many more promises are you going to break? He got up, approached me, tried to hug me. I took a step back. No, I said firmly. Don't touch me. Not until things change for real. What do you want me to do? I want you to stop lying. I want you to talk to Vanessa and tell her the truth, the whole truth. That I have been paying part of her rent for 5 years, that you don't earn what you led her to believe, that her perfect life is built on your mother's sacrifice. Mom, I can't do that. She what? She's going to leave you? And if she leaves you for that, what kind of woman is she? What kind of marriage do you have? Ryan didn't answer. And in that silence, I understood everything. I understood that my son preferred to keep lying rather than risk losing Vanessa. I understood that for him, his image was more important than my well-being. I understood that the son I thought I knew no longer existed or perhaps never existed. Leave, I told him quietly. Mom, leave, Ryan. I need to be alone. He left without looking back. The door closed, and I stayed in my living room, surrounded by my papers, my accounts, my proofs of 5 years of unrequited love. I sat under the bougainvillea. Although it was night and cold, the plant almost had no flowers. Winter was approaching, and I felt the same inside, a long, cold, and painful winter. But I also felt something else, something small but real. I felt that finally I had told the truth, that finally I had defended myself, that finally I had stopped being invisible, and that amidst all the pain, there was a beginning. The days after that conversation were the quietest of my life. Ryan didn't call me. I didn't call him either. The first of the month passed, and I didn't make the deposit. The second, the third, the fourth passed. My phone remained silent. It was strange. For 5 years I had lived with the pressure of that monthly commitment, and now that I wasn't fulfilling it, I expected to feel guilt, but I didn't feel it. I felt something similar to peace, a bitter peace, but peace nonetheless. Linda came to visit me on the 5th day. "What happened? You look different," she said as soon as she entered. I spoke with Ryan and told him the truth. "Everything." Linda hugged me tight. "Oh, Eleanor, how do you feel?" "I don't know." Empty. Liberated. Sad. All at the same time. We sat down to drink coffee. I told her every detail of the conversation. When I finished, Linda had tears in her eyes. "You did the right thing," she told me. "Even though it hurts, you did the right thing." On the 7th day, my phone rang. It was a message from Ryan. "Mom, we need to talk. Can I come tomorrow?" I replied, "Yes." The next day, he arrived alone. He looked tired, haggard. We sat in the living room. Neither knew how to start. "I spoke with Vanessa," he said finally. My heart skipped a beat. "You told her?" "Yes, I told her everything. That you have been helping me with the rent, that I lied to her about my income for 5 years. And what did she say?" Ryan lowered his gaze. "She got very angry. She is disappointed. She says I lied to her, that I made her look ridiculous in front of her family. And about me?" "What did she say about me?" she says. "Why didn't you tell her sooner? You should have included her in the conversation from the beginning." I felt my blood boil. "Why didn't I tell her? You asked me to keep the secret. You begged me not to tell her." "I know, Mom, I know. I explained it to her, but she is very angry." "With whom? With you or with me?" "With both." "Of course." I was also guilty. Because that's how it works, right? The mother is always to blame for something. "And now what?" I asked. "Vanessa says she needs time to think. She is considering going to her parents' house for a while. Leaving? She says she can no longer trust me, that if I lied about this, she doesn't know what else I lied about." There was pain in his voice, real pain, and for a moment I felt pity for him, just for a moment. "Ryan, maybe this is something good. Maybe it is time you build your marriage on the truth, and not on lies." "Something good? Something good that my wife wants to leave me? Something good that there is finally honesty? You don't understand. I love her. I can't lose her. And me? You could lose me? For 5 years you lost me little by little. You stopped visiting me. You stopped asking me how I was. You turned me into a monthly obligation. You lost me a long time ago, Ryan, only you didn't realize it. Mom, I never wanted to. But you did, and now you are paying the consequences." Ryan stood up and walked toward the window. "So, what? No, not even a few more months while I fix things? No, Ryan, it's over. And how am I going to pay the rent? Look for a cheaper place, get a second job, sell the SUV, do what all responsible adults do. Live within your means." That is easy to say. And it is also easy to do. I did it for years. I raised a son alone on a teacher's salary. I lived within my means, without luxuries, without pretending, with dignity. It's not the same. You're right. It isn't the same, because you have more resources than I had. You have an education, a stable job, youth. I only had will and love. And even so, we got ahead. Ryan kept silent for a long time. Then he looked at me with a mixture of rage and pain. "You know what, Mom? Maybe you're right. Maybe I did take advantage of you. But you also have part of the blame. You never said no. You never set limits. You always said yes to everything. You accustomed me to you always being there, giving, sacrificing yourself. And now you want me to change from one day to the next." His words hurt because they had some truth. I had allowed everything. I had said yes when I should have said no. "You are right," I admitted. "I allowed you to treat me like this. I taught you that my love had no limits or conditions, and that was my mistake. But mistakes can be corrected, and I am correcting mine now, cutting you off, not letting you grow. Letting you be a responsible man who faces his own decisions." Ryan shook his head. "You are incredible, Mom. Now it turns out abandoning me is for my own good." "I am not abandoning you. I am letting you go. There is a difference." He walked toward the door. Before leaving, he turned around. "I hope you are happy. Because of you, my marriage is falling apart." "No, Ryan, it is falling apart because of the lies, because of the lack of foundations. I only uncovered what was already rotten." He left, slamming the door. I stayed alone in the living room, trembling. The words "because of you" echoed in my head. Was it my fault? Was I the villain of this story? No, I knew it. But it still hurt. Days turned into weeks. I heard nothing from Ryan. I didn't look for him either. For the first time in my life, I respected his silence, just as he had ignored my needs for years. I used my money, that money that before went every month, to fill my prescriptions. The pain in my knees began to improve. I could walk a little better. I also slept better. One afternoon, while I was watering the bougainvillea, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Mrs. Eleanor?" asked a woman's voice I didn't recognize. "Yes." "Who is speaking?" "It's Megan, Vanessa's sister." My blood froze. Why was my son's sister-in-law calling me? Did something happen? "No, don't worry. I just wanted to talk to you. Can we meet?" I agreed to meet Megan. I didn't know what to expect, but something inside me told me I needed to hear what she had to say. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop near my house. When I arrived, she was already there. She looked like Vanessa, elegant, well-dressed, with that air of confidence that money gives. But in her eyes, there was something different, something more human. "Mrs. Eleanor." "Thank you for coming," she said, standing up. We sat down and ordered coffee. The silence was uncomfortable. "I don't know how to start," she said finally. "Vanessa doesn't know I'm here. If she finds out, she's going to be very angry with me." "Then why did you come?" "Because I need to tell you something. Something I think you deserve to know." I prepared myself for the worst. Vanessa told me everything about the rent, about the money you gave them, everything. And I was in shock, not because Ryan needed help, but because Vanessa acted as if she didn't know anything. My heart started beating faster. "What do you mean?" Megan took a deep breath before continuing. "Mrs. Eleanor, Vanessa did know. Maybe not from the beginning, but since about 3 years ago, she knew you were helping with the rent." The world stopped. "How does she know?" "Because she told me about 2 years ago at a family dinner. She was complaining that Ryan didn't earn as much as she thought. And when I asked her how they managed with such an expensive apartment, she told me as if it were nothing. Oh, his mom helps us with a part, $1,200 a month. It's the least she can do after everything Ryan does for her." I felt as if I had been punched in the stomach. The least she can do. Yes, that's what she said, as if it were her obligation, as if you owed them something. My hands started to shake. "And why are you telling me this now?" "Because when everything exploded, Vanessa acted in front of my family as if she had been betrayed, as if Ryan had hidden something terrible from her. And yes, he lied to her at first, but she knew since years ago. She played the victim to look good in front of my parents. And what did your parents say? They are furious with Ryan. They say he is a leech, that he deceived Vanessa, that he isn't enough for her. My dad even offered Vanessa money to get divorced." I felt dizzy. Everything was worse than I had imagined. "Mrs. Eleanor," Megan continued, "I don't agree with how Ryan handled all this. Lying is wrong. But Vanessa isn't innocent either. She knew and said nothing. She enjoyed your money and never had the decency to get to know you better, to thank you, to include you in her life, and that isn't right. Why are you telling me all this? Because you are an older woman, because it makes me angry to see how they treated you, and because someone had to tell you the truth. Not everything is Ryan's fault. My sister also played her part. I stayed silent for a long time, processing, feeling how every piece of the puzzle fit into place. "Thank you for telling me," I managed to say finally. "And what are you going to do?" "I don't know. But at least now, I know the whole truth." Megan left. I stayed in that coffee shop for another hour, looking at my empty cup, feeling that everything I thought I knew about the last few years had been a complete lie. Vanessa knew. She knew and didn't say anything. She knew and treated me with disdain. She knew and never thanked me. That night I couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m. I made a decision. I opened my old laptop and wrote a letter. I wasn't going to send it by text or by phone. It was a formal letter written with all my heart. Ryan, 32 years ago I brought you into this world. I raised you alone after your father died. I gave you everything I could. Education, love, values. I believed that was enough to form a good man. I was wrong. Not because you are bad, but because I protected you too much. I taught you that a mother's love has no limits, and you learned you could take without giving. I taught you that sacrifice is noble, and you learned that my sacrifice was your right. For 5 years, I gave you $72,000. I don't regret the money. I regret having allowed you to make me invisible. I regret keeping your secret while you built a life of lies. Today I know that Vanessa knew. I know that for years she knew I paid part of her life, and even so, she treated me as if I were a nuisance. And you allowed it. I am not writing to reproach you. I am writing to say goodbye. Not a definitive goodbye, but a goodbye to the relationship we had. That relationship in which I gave and you took, in which I annulled myself and you flourished, in which my pain was invisible to you. If someday you want to meet your mother, not your source of money, but Eleanor, the woman I am, my door will be open. But I am no longer going to beg you to see me. I am no longer going to wait for crumbs of your attention. I am no longer going to sacrifice my dignity for your comfort. From my heart, I wish you the best. I hope you find your way, that you build an honest life, that you become the man I believed you were. But you will do it without my financial help and without my complicit silence. I love you. I will always love you. But now I also love myself. Your mother, Eleanor. I printed the letter, put it in an envelope, and the next day I took it personally to his apartment. I didn't ring the doorbell. I just left it in the mailbox and left. I walked through the neighborhood with my cane, feeling lighter than ever. There was a weight I no longer carried. It wasn't the weight of the money. It was the weight of the lie, the weight of pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. The following days I dedicated to myself. I hired someone to fix the water heater in my house. I bought paint and, with Linda's help, we painted the living room. I bought fresh flowers for my table. I cooked my chili just for me and enjoyed it. I went out to walk in the park every morning. The physical therapy was working. My knees hurt less. I could breathe better. One afternoon, 3 weeks after leaving the letter, my phone rang. It was Ryan. "Mom, I read your letter. Do you really feel like that?" There was a long silence. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just think. Vanessa and I separated. Really? Yes. I know you loved her. She says she can't be with someone who lied to her. Ironic, isn't it? Considering she knew too. Yes. Megan told me she spoke with me, that she told me the truth. Are you mad at her? No, I am grateful. Someone had to be honest in this whole story. And now what are you going to do? I moved to a smaller, cheaper apartment. I sold the SUV. I am starting over. I'm glad, Mom. I'm so sorry for everything. I really was a bad son. You weren't bad. You were lost. There is a difference. Someday, you are going to forgive me. I already forgave you, Ryan. Forgiveness is for me, not for you, so I can move forward without resentment. Then, can we start over? We can, but it will be different. I am no longer going to be the mother who says yes to everything. I am going to be the mother who tells you the truth, even if it hurts. I accept it, and you're going to have to earn my trust again, not with words, but with deeds. I will do it. I promise. Don't promise. Just do it. We hung up. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hope. Not the blind hope of before, but a mature, conscious hope. With open eyes, months passed. Ryan kept his word, not with grand gestures, but with small and constant actions. He started visiting me every Sunday. He arrived with bread from the bakery that I liked. He didn't arrive empty-handed expecting me to cook. He arrived, and we cooked together like when he was a boy. He didn't talk about money. He didn't ask for anything. He just came to be with me. At first, I was suspicious. I expected that at any moment he would ask me for help again, but he didn't. And little by little, I began to believe the change was real. He told me he was working overtime, that he had sold many things he no longer needed, that he was learning to live with less, and that, curiously, he felt freer. You know what's ironic, Mom? He told me one afternoon while we drank coffee under the bougainvillea, which had bloomed again. When I had the expensive apartment, the SUV, and the outings to restaurants, I was always stressed, always worried about money. Now that I live simply, I sleep better. It made me happy to hear it, not because I enjoyed his difficulties, but because he was finally learning. But life has strange ways of dispensing justice, and Vanessa was about to discover it. Linda came one afternoon with gossip. She followed Vanessa's social media out of pure curiosity. "Eleanor, you have to see this," she told me, showing me her phone. It was a post from Vanessa. There were no longer photos in expensive restaurants or messages of a blessed life. It was a photo of her alone in a coffee shop with a long text. "Sometimes life teaches you that appearances aren't everything. I have learned the hard way that a life built on lies, even pretty lies, sooner or later collapses. I am in a process of personal reconstruction, and I thank those who have been by my side in these difficult moments." "What happened to her?" I asked. Linda kept showing me. According to what she had investigated, after separating from Ryan, Vanessa had met someone else, a businessman, who owned a chain of restaurants, really rich, not just in appearance. They had gotten engaged quickly, but 3 months later the engagement broke off. Apparently, the businessman discovered that Vanessa had lied to him about several things: her age, her education, even about having a job that she had actually lost months before. "Ironic, isn't it?" said Linda. "She left Ryan for being a liar, and then they left her for the same thing." I didn't feel joy for her pain, but I did feel there was a balance in the universe. Weeks later, Megan called me again. "Mrs. Eleanor, I just wanted to tell you something. Vanessa is going through a very difficult time. I heard. She is living with my parents again. She lost her job, her boyfriend left her, and now she says she was wrong about Ryan, that he did love her and she didn't know how to value him." "And does she expect Ryan to get back with her?" I asked. "I don't know, but she is different, less arrogant, more humble. I think life is hitting her hard." "Life doesn't hit, Megan," I replied. "Life teaches. The blow is what we feel when we don't want to learn." "It's true. Anyway, I just wanted you to know. And also to tell you that now my family speaks of you with respect. My mom said the other day that Mrs. Eleanor has more dignity than many of us. I think we all understood that you were not the problem. Thank you, Megan." After that call, I stayed thinking. I didn't feel vengeance or satisfaction for Vanessa's suffering. I felt something deeper: understanding. I understood that everyone reaps what they sow. Vanessa sowed lies, appearances, and disdain. Now, she was reaping loneliness and disappointment, not because I wished it on her, but because that's how life works. Ryan sowed manipulation and negligence toward his mother, and lost his marriage, his status, his comfort. He had to start from zero, and although now he was better, the path had been painful. And I, who sowed love and sacrifice, was also reaping. Not what I expected, eternal gratitude or the perfect son, but something more valuable: my own peace, my recovered dignity, my rebuilt self-love. One Sunday afternoon, Ryan arrived with a serious face. "Mom, I need to tell you something." "Tell me." Vanessa wrote to me. "She wants to talk. She says she was wrong, that she wants to try again." I felt my heart tighten. "And what do you want?" "I don't know. A part of me still loves her, but another part knows it would be a mistake." "Why would it be a mistake?" "Because we were never honest, neither her with me, nor me with her, nor either of us with ourselves. We built a relationship on sand, Mom, and when the storm came, it collapsed." I felt proud of his words. "And what are you going to answer her?" "That no. That I need to keep growing alone. That maybe in the future we can be friends, but for now it is better that everyone heals on their own side." That seems sensible to me. Sensible. I don't know, but I know it is honest, and that for me now is a lot. He kept silent for a moment, looking at the bougainvillea full of purple flowers. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course. How did you know when it was time to let me go? How did you know you had to leave me?" I thought about my answer carefully. "When the love I felt for you started to hurt me more than it filled me. When I understood I was destroying myself to lift you up. When I understood that letting you go wasn't abandoning you, but giving you the opportunity to learn to fly alone. And if I hadn't learned? And if I had fallen? Then you would have gotten back up." "No. But that was no longer my responsibility. My responsibility to you was when you were a child, but now you are a man, and men learn from their own mistakes, not from the cushions their mothers put down so they don't get hurt. Ryan nodded slowly. I think I understand. And Vanessa. Do you think she will learn? I don't know. I hope so. I don't wish her harm, truly, but I can't be the one to save her either. She has to save herself. Exactly 2 months later, I found out from Megan that Vanessa had gotten a new job. Nothing glamorous, a simple position in an office. She had left social media, cut her hair, was in therapy. She looks different, Megan told me. More real, less perfect, but more human. I'm happy for her, I replied. And I meant it. Because that is karma. It isn't vengeance. It isn't divine punishment. It is simply life putting you in front of the consequences of your decisions. And when you accept those consequences and learn from them, you begin to heal. Ryan continued coming every Sunday. Sometimes he brought a girl he had met at work. Her name was Sarah. She was a teacher, like I was simple, kind, down to earth. I didn't get my hopes up. I didn't make plans. I just treated her with respect and observed how Ryan behaved with her, and I liked what I saw. He treated her as an equal. He didn't try to impress her. He didn't lie about his life. From the beginning, he told her about his separation, his mistakes, how he was rebuilding himself. One afternoon, after Sarah left, Ryan told me, "Mom, she knows about you. She knows everything about the rent, the lies, everything." And what did she say? She said she is glad I learned, and that she wants to know you well, not out of obligation, but because she is truly interested. I like her, I said, smiling. Me too. And the best thing is that with her I can be myself. I don't have to pretend. That is real love, son. When you can show your worst version, and the other person doesn't leave, but helps you be your best version like you did with me. No, I overprotected you. Sarah is accompanying you, which is different. A full year passed since I stopped paying the rent, a year of healing, of reconstruction, of learning. My knees were much better. I had saved a little money. My house was fixed. And my heart, although with scars, was in peace. Life had done justice in its own way, not how I imagined it. Not with perfect apologies, nor with refunds of money, but with something deeper. Everyone learned their lesson, everyone paid their price, and everyone, in their own way, was finding their path. And I, Eleanor, 59 years old, retired teacher, widow, imperfect mother, had learned the most important lesson, that true love sometimes means letting go, that self-respect isn't selfishness, that saying no doesn't make you a bad mother, and that life, patient and wise, always, always collects its debts. 2 years have passed since that December night, the night my son asked me in front of everyone, "How does it feel to be completely useless, Mom?" That night changed my life. Not because of what I answered, but because it was the moment I stopped being invisible to myself. Today I am 61 years old. I have more gray hair, but my back is straighter. Sometimes my knees hurt, but I no longer use a cane. My house is painted with cheerful colors. My bougainvillea is more beautiful than ever, full of purple flowers that fall like rain when the wind blows, and my heart is in peace. Ryan married Sarah 6 months ago. It was a simple wedding in a small garden, only with the closest friends and family. I was in the front row, not because I had paid for anything, but because my son wanted me there. That day, Sarah hugged me and whispered in my ear, "Thank you for raising a man who knows how to recognize his mistakes. There aren't many like that." I cried, but they were tears of joy. Now they live in a modest apartment. Ryan continues to work hard, no longer with overtime, but with responsibility. Sarah teaches at a public elementary school. They come to eat with me on Sundays. She helps me in the kitchen. Ryan fixes things that break in my house, not because I ask him, but because he wants to. Last week he told me, "Mom, Sarah and I are saving. We want to gift you a trip to wherever you want. You don't have to give me anything." "I know," I replied, "but we need to give it to you. Please, let us do it." I accepted, not because I needed the trip, but because I understood that was their way of healing, their way of saying what perhaps they would never say with words. "Sorry, Mom. Thank you, Mom. I love you, Mom." I will finally go to Napa Valley, the trip I never took with Linda, but this time I will go with my son and my daughter-in-law, and it will be perfect because it will be honest. I know little of Vanessa. Megan told me she found stability in her job. She continues in therapy. She met someone, but now she goes slowly, without rushing, without lies. She says, "You were right." Megan told me the last time we spoke that a life built on appearances always collapses and that she had to collapse to be able to rebuild herself properly. I don't feel resentment toward her. On the contrary, I wish her the best because I understood something important. She was also a lost person, trying to fill voids with material things and external approval, just like Ryan, just like me, in my own way. We were all lost, and the pain was the map that led us back home. Linda and I finally took our retired teacher's trip. We went to Chicago with 3 other friends. We laughed, walked, ate, remembered, and for the first time in years, I didn't worry about money because I had money, because I wasn't giving it away anymore, because I learned that taking care of myself wasn't selfishness, it was survival. "You look different," Linda told me one night while we were having dinner at a restaurant overlooking the city. "Radiant, happy." "I feel different," I replied. "I feel complete." "Complete?" "Yes. For years I felt like half. The half that gave, the half that served, the half that existed for others. Now I am complete. I give when I want to give. I help when I can help, but I no longer annul myself. I no longer disappear." Linda raised her glass. "To Eleanor, the woman who learned to fly." We toasted, and I felt that those words were true. This morning I was watering my bougainvillea when a letter arrived. It was from an address I didn't recognize. I opened it with curiosity. "Dear Mrs. Eleanor, I don't know if you remember me. I am Vanessa, Ryan's ex-wife. I am writing this letter because my therapist told me that part of my healing is to make peace with my past, and you are part of that past that I treated badly. I never thanked you for years. You paid part of the life that I enjoyed, and I, instead of thanking you, treated you with disdain. I have no excuses. I only have shame and regret. I know the money cannot be returned. I know the lost time doesn't come back. But I want you to know that I am deeply sorry and that you were right about everything. A life built on lies doesn't last. I learned it the hard way. Today I am rebuilding myself, trying to be a better person, an honest person, a grateful person. And although I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, I ask for it anyway. Thank you for everything you gave and sorry for not having valued it. With respect and regret, Vanessa." I read the letter twice. Then I kept it in a drawer next to the letter I had written to Ryan 2 years ago. I didn't reply, not because I didn't forgive her, but because I had forgiven her a long time ago, and because I understood that letter wasn't for me. It was for her. It was her process, her healing, her path. Mine was already traveled. Yesterday, Sunday, after eating, Ryan and Sarah stayed a while longer. We were sitting under the bougainvillea, drinking coffee, when Ryan told me, "Mom, Sarah and I have something to tell you." My heart raced because of the way they looked at each other. I knew what was coming. "We are going to be parents," Sarah said with a huge smile. I was left speechless. The tears came out on their own. I got up and hugged them both. "I'm going to be a grandmother," I said through tears. "I'm going to be a grandmother. And we want to ask you something," Ryan continued. "We want you to be part of our son or daughter's life, not from afar, but close. We want him to know you, for you to tell him stories, for you to teach him what you taught us, but this time without sacrificing yourself, this time enjoying it. And if you ever need anything," added Sarah, "promise me you will tell us, because you are also family, and in this family, no one is left alone or in silence." I nodded, unable to speak. I could only cry and smile at the same time. That night, after they left, I stayed a while under the bougainvillea, looking at the stars, feeling the fresh air, listening to the silence of my house, which was no longer a silence of loneliness, but of peace. I thought about the entire road traveled, the pain, the tears, the $72,000 lost, the knees that still hurt, the years that won't return, and I asked myself, was it worth it? The answer came to me clear as water. Yes. Not for the money, not for the sacrifice, but for the lesson. I learned that true love is not measured in money or sacrifices. It is measured in respect, in honesty, in reciprocity. I learned that being a good mother doesn't mean saying yes to everything. It means teaching with limits, with truth, with dignity. I learned that sometimes you have to lose to win, that you have to let go to receive, that you have to break to rebuild. And I learned that it is never too late to start over. At 59, at 61, at 80. As long as there is life, there is an opportunity to change. If my story reached your ears, if you listened to the end, I want you to know something. You are not alone. If you feel invisible, if you are giving until you are left with nothing, if someone makes you believe that your only value is what you can give, listen to me well. You have permission to say no. You have permission to set limits. You have permission to take care of yourself first. You are not selfish. You are human, and you deserve respect, love, and dignity. It doesn't matter who it is, your son, your daughter, your partner, your family, no one. Absolutely no one has the right to make you invisible because you matter. Your pain matters. Your happiness matters. Your life matters. And if I could find my voice at 59 after years of silence, you can too. Start today. Start now. Say no when you want to say no. Say yes only when it is true. And never, never again make yourself small so others can feel big. Life is short, and you deserve to live it completely. Thank you for listening to me until the end. Thank you for giving me this space to tell my truth. Every day, a woman finds the courage to change her story. Today, it was you listening to mine. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs it. Sometimes a story like this can change an entire day or an entire life. May God bless you. May you find your voice. May you recover your dignity. And may you never again allow them to make you invisible. Until next time.